What's up, guys? Welcome to Kind of Funny's Game of Thrones, the final season in review. I'm Tim Gettys. This is Andy Cortez. That's Kevin Coelho. That's Andrea Renee. Jesus. And over there we got Nick Scarpino.
When did you become Jesus? That's cool.
I think he was referring to you, Beard Man.
Well, okay, I'll take it.
Beard man.
Andrea,
Beard man.
keeper of plot.
Yes.
Explainer of scenes.
I love that. That's good. This is going to be a 6-episode run where each and every week on Monday, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, we review the latest episode of Game of Thrones all the way to the end. I'm very excited about all of this. It will be on the same podcast feed as Kind of Funny's In Review series. So if you go to your favorite podcast service, type in Kind of Funny Reviews, you'll find it there. Or you just find it on YouTube or Rooster Teeth when it goes up there. If you want to be part of the show, write in your reviews, your thoughts, your questions, anything, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, and bronze members or above get to do all of that. Nick, you look like you had something to say. No?
No, well, I was thinking about maybe getting myself a tray table for my drink, but then I thought this set looks really too good.
Yeah.
But then I was like, if I get the tray table now, will that have to be a staple of the thing? It's a long.
Why would you need a tray table?
Because there's so many laptops
you said
here.
multiple times before we started, you don't need your laptop.
I need a tray table.
Jesus.
God damn it.
Jesus. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Game of Thrones, the final season, episode 1 out of 6. First aired on April 14th, 2019, directed by David Nutter.
Yep.
David Nutter has directed 2 episodes of the second season of Game of Thrones, and in 2013, he directed the last 2 of the third season, including The Red Wedding. So that's really cool. And then in 2014, he returned to the series to direct the last 2 episodes of the 5th season, The Dance of Dragons and Mother's Mercy. And he got a Primetime Emmy Award for the last one there. And Nutter is directing 3 episodes this season, the 1st, 2nd, and 4th, which is a lot. That's half the season.
Yeah.
So good for you, David Nutter. Good for you.
A lot of faith in him.
Yeah. Written by Dave Hill, who's known for writing 3 episodes of Game of Thrones in season 5, Sons of the Harpy in season 6, Home, and in season 7, Eastwatch. So cool.
That last
there we
one,
go.
or the
Hard
second-
Home?
Hard Home, yeah. Probably Hard Home.
Hard Home, yeah.
Good episode.
Good episode, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Amazing episode.
I'd say like easily top 5.
Which one was that one?
Where
Hard
they
Home.
go to Beyond the Wall and they're trying to rescue all of the wildlings and bring them back south of the wall, but they're kind of too late.
It's the infamous moment where the Night King's like,
where he raises his
raises the
arms and
arms.
then like,
Oh,
all of the
or
dead
ship,
soldiers
yeah,
on the
the
battlefield
yeah,
get
that
up.
was dope.
Cool.
Yeah, that episode's called Eastwatch. The Hard Home episode.
Really?
It's called Eastwatch.
what?
Yeah.
I thought it was called Hard Home.
I thought it was too. No? Huh. So there you go.
There it is.
Interesting.
I know, we're all like, I don't know if that's right.
I'll have to take your
Maybe
word
it's
for
like a
all of this.
European
I can't
thing.
remember the character names, let alone the episode names of this damn
Wait,
show.
maybe that's a different episode because we're
No,
talking about season 7.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll Google
I'm
it.
pretty
Hard
sure the
Hard Home is
East-
in season 6, isn't it
Yeah,
not?
yeah. So these are different episodes.
Oh,
Yeah.
are they?
Yeah.
There's just an episode called Home?
There's an episode called Home in season 6.
There's an episode called Hard Home.
Hard Home.
And that's
Oh my gosh.
Nick 5
You
minutes
guys.
behind.
Home is the 2nd episode of the 6th season. It's where Jon Snow comes back to life.
Got it.
Hard Home is
that
the
was-
episode where he's like this. Where he's like, what's up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick, good job. We're all very proud.
I got it. No, I got it.
Yeah, you did. Wow.
Look, it turns out my laptop, very useful.
Very, very useful. A runtime of 54 minutes. Man, I wish it lasted a lot longer.
Quick
They flew
54
It was a
minutes.
quick
fast.
54. When you're watching it, I watched it on Amazon, which, by the way, Andy, you want to give a little tips and tricks to the kids out there?
Oh yeah. So I used to use HBO Go. Now I was using it for free. Right. It's my dad's account. And then I've never really been happy with the quality. There's a lot of like artifacting. It's kind of like, it looks like a lower quality video. And so I did some research and it turns out that yes, HBO on their apps, whether it's Go or Now, they put out like half the bit rate that Amazon does. And so
How about that AWS, man?
so I subscribed for $15, and so
7-day free
Wait,
trial.
now let me ask you a question. Does Amazon do the thing with HBO shows where when you press pause, it tells you the name of the character and the actor, like their X-ray?
Yes.
yes, it
That's
does.
the coolest
Every scene.
It sure
and
does.
most
Really rad.
fucking helpful
Every
thing
scene.
ever. I do that when I do the plot summaries for Mission, like for the interviews, other ones. I like watching them through Amazon because of that. I'm like, what's that character's name again? Pause. It's right there. Boom.
Yeah,
Done.
it shows you. It's like, oh, that's who Littlefinger is. I forgot his name. He's
Yeah.
from The Wire. Great guy.
Exactly. I didn't
yeah.
know
So
that.
Amazon puts out double the quality that HBO Go apps
And
do.
God, does it show.
It does show, absolutely. Yeah, I've been really, really happy with
How
it.
does that compare to like actually watching on cable? Because that's where I watch.
Well,
it.
cable puts out 720p, so not
Is
great.
it really?
Yeah.
It's not good. HBO's fucking up, man.
Yeah.
They need to step their shit up.
And then like after I watch, after that I'm like at night watching Our World or whatever it's called on Netflix in 4K. It's like, how is this streaming possible?
Yeah.
And HBO said, I don't know. So some people are on the Facebook group are like, I don't know what Andy's talking about. It looks great to me. It's like, that's fine if it looks great to you.
Good.
But like,
Good.
it really,
It can look better.
I saw Pear tweet about it.
Yeah.
And he was like, the fact that like HBO is still like putting out this sort of quality is like not good.
For how much money they're investing into the
Yeah.
show. That's
and
really
they're
interesting.
shooting it in 4K. It's like, what are you guys
Yeah,
doing?
why wouldn't you just put
so
it-
here's the thing. Now that you guys are watching this, if you're late and you missed episode 1 watching it, it's perfect because you get a 7-day free trial and then it's $15 a month. So because there's only 5 episodes left, if you time this right, get your free trial next week, $15, you'll get the rest of the whole season. So
Yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to not even talking about Game of Thrones. Whatever the preview for this Euphoria show was, did you guys see this?
Dude, that was
Zendaya?
crazy.
The Zendaya,
Oh,
the Zendaya
yeah.
show.
I'm
I was
in.
like, this looks
Interesting stuff.
amazing. Shout out to HBO. Is it going to get me to retain my HBO after this?
Barry's
Only
back,
my-
big
Only
dog.
my wife will decide.
Barry's back, big dog.
Barry's back, but here's the problem.
And it's good.
Pardon me. I don't like this whole bullshit of, it's season 3, episode 3. Cool. I'm going to wait till all of them are done and then watch them all in a weekend
Sure.
like you should.
100%, yeah.
This appointment viewing bullshit is only good for Game of Thrones. Everything else, forget about it. It's for the birds.
I hate it in Game of Thrones. I hate waiting for.
I hate it
like,
too.
a
If we
week.
weren't doing the show, I would let them all spool up and then I'd watch them all in one sitting.
No, with social media, it's not possible.
I was sick.
well, you know me. I don't
I
pay
was
attention
sick.
to social media.
it's true.
I was sick as I'm choking. I was sick for most of last week, so I spent a lot of time rewatching season 5, 6, and 7. And yesterday I started this episode a little bit late because I was finishing episode 7. And God, just the writing in this show is just top tier, man. It's so incredible.
Andy, give Andrea her proper introduction here.
Oh God, I'm sick, man. Plot, 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 plot.
Everybody!
I was gonna say Greg's still gone
Fuck
or
Greg.
something
He's
like that.
gone. Nobody
He's
remembers
there
Greg
forever.
on the show.
Yeah.
But for
At
this
this point,
I
it's
feel
been
like
6
you
episodes.
should give her what you did earlier with the keeper of plot.
Oh yeah. The keeper of plot, the explainer of scenes, Andrea Renee.
Hello, everybody.
First of her name.
Yeah, boy.
We got to figure out a good one. We'll figure it out.
We'll
By
get there.
next week, we'll get it down pat.
Probably.
And shout out to Patreon producer David Mintel.
Mind
So
freak.
there are a bazillion places I probably could have gone to get a plot synopsis, but instead I decided to watch the episode 2 times
Yeah, you
last
did.
night.
Yeah.
2 times?
And made my own handwritten notes.
It's better.
on what's happening.
I will shout out to your penmanship and also how big your letters are. Because
Yeah.
they take up the entire, like, first off, you've got the lines notepaper, but it's thicker lines.
Yeah, she's
That's
using,
wide ruled.
yeah,
Yeah.
wide
That
ruled
is
for sure.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
I have a combination of cursive and regular letters when I write, and so I need a lot of space because I write very large.
naturally.
What I've noticed over time is that my penmanship is going downhill because we so rarely write
Yeah.
They don't
anymore.
even teach writing anymore in school. It's right here. They just
So-
teach like shorthand
Emojis,
tweeting.
that's it.
That's it.
This is how you emoji everything. Okay, so season 8, episode 1 opens with a pretty iconic scene that harkens back to season 1, episode 1, which I thought was really interesting. So we've got the Unsullied army marching towards Winterfell with Jon and Daenerys in the middle of them. Much like King Baratheon and Queen Cersei were with the Lannister army when they first went to Winterfell way back when.
So awesome.
Which I thought was a really nice
Beautifully done.
callback.
Yeah.
So that was a really neat moment. And
And
then
the new brand climbing.
But distinctly different vibe
New
in this
Arya.
one, though.
absolutely. Yeah, so Arya is now
Arya
like
doing it in the
same
first
hiding
episode.
in the amongst the townspeople who are lined up to watch. I was really hoping she was gonna run out and say hi to Jon in that moment, and then she didn't.
Not
He
her
just-
thing.
She was like, nah, man, you come to me. I guess I'll
Yeah.
come to you later. But
But
you
I'm
know,
shocked she didn't have a friend that was like, John, check it out. Hey, you know her. Like,
There was a moment though where she sees him, but he doesn't see her.
Yeah.
no, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and then we get to see the 2 dragons fly over the army towards Winterfell. Arya seeing the dragons for the
Love
first
it.
time. Sansa on the battlements of Winterfell watching the dragons fly
everyone
over.
else flipping the fuck out. Like, I feel like they
That's some
should
scary
have
shit.
prepared them, and it looks like they didn't at all. Like someone should have like I don't know, send him
We
a
got
text.
dragons coming!
Yeah, like, hey, there's dragons, be cool.
But that's the whole point of this, right? Is that Daenerys is coming in as their queen and is kind of flexing a little bit.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
she doesn't want to prepare people for this. She wants people to know, like, listen, I'm here and I'm your ruler. I'm not screwing around right now.
But Jon being like, hey, I know these guys, they're gonna flip out. Like, you should be cool.
Well, he
Yeah.
had that conversation later, right? Where he's standing there, he's like, these people are stubborn. Like, you have to understand, or I forget who has that conversation with
Yeah,
her.
no, they're riding on horseback, while they're making their way into Winterfell, and he says, like how loyal and stubborn the people
gotta
of the
earn their
North are,
trust,
and
yeah.
they don't trust outsiders. Is like the big sentiment, right?
Yeah, and she's like, I don't care, I got dragons.
I got
Yeah,
dragons.
the
they're gonna
Onion
bow.
Knight. What's his face?
Davos.
Sir Davos.
Davos is the one talking to, I believe it was maybe Daenerys, I forgot who, but he was the one that was like, these people are stubborn and they don't really accept new things, so
It was to Jon
it's gonna be
and
hard to win them
Varys.
over.
Yeah,
He was
that's what
like,
it was.
y'all should get married.
Varys is so cool, man.
Well, that comes a little bit later. So they make their way into the courtyard of Winterfell, and then everybody's lined up there again, hearkening to season 1, episode 1. And you've got did you guys notice Podrick's hair? It's like all swoopy and long
Hey,
now.
he's sexy, dude. He's there, and he's just like, look, I got the couple episodes left. I don't know how many more appearances I'm gonna have, but once I'm done with this show, ooh,
Which one's Podrick?
Podrick's the guy with that good
Big dick.
With the big dick
Yeah.
guy?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't even see him
Brienne
in this.
Squire.
Ah, yeah, okay.
And here's how I know
didn't-
Podrick is like actually a super good looking dude because of Amazon, whatever the DNA or what's it called?
X-ray.
X-ray. Yeah, I was so close. So when you hit the up button, it shows like Podrick's like his
Little
headshots or
thumbnail,
whatever.
yeah.
Like in real life, it's like, wow, he's a really handsome dude.
Yeah.
He's like, he's
I
rocking
always
it.
get him confused with the other guy who was the one that got
Popeye?
tied to a bed by the
Oh,
Red
Gendry.
Witch.
Greyjoy?
No, no, no,
Gendry.
Oh, Gendry, yeah.
By
who's
Melisandre. They
I
kinda
think
look
I think
alike.
he's way better looking than this
Oh,
Podrick
Gendry's
kid.
Gendry's got that good
Gendry's got
jaw.
that-
He
that
looks
real
so
big
much.
dick.
I feel like he looks so much
Sorry.
older. Great abs.
Gendry-
Great abs.
I feel like I don't like his
Okay.
look with the shaved head.
He looks
Oh,
like
I
Christian
think it's
Bale,
hotter,
like a
man.
little bit
He
of
does.
Christian
He
Bale.
does.
It's sexy.
I fucking like it.
Look at this guy.
They're both handsome gentlemen. I will give them that.
Like, if he
Andrew,
was in
just
a
prepare
Batman-
for us to gush over men in this show.
Listen, there's a lot of sexy
dudes.
men in this show.
There's
We
a
can
lot of
gush over
good-looking
men
dudes.
all you want. So they ride in, and Daenerys, they all like demount off their horses, and they walk up, and he's like, "Oh, Lady Stark," and there's this whole exchange between Jon and Sansa and
then
the Queen.
Bran
and,
just shuts the shit down,
Yeah.
dude. He's like, dude, we do not have time
we
for
don't have
this.
time
Like,
for
stop.
this.
yeah.
Which is awesome.
But you're starting to see the power struggle, right, between Daenerys and between Sansa, where they're
Right.
just like, Sansa's like, I'm not giving you what you want, which is I'm not bending a knee to you. I'm not giving you this like even an inch of what I have here, which is the respect of the people. And Bronn's like, we do not have time for these politics anymore. The fucking wall is gone. They've got one of your dragons, which is the first time anyone's heard anything about this, right? Like
Yeah.
and the shock on Daenerys' face of like, oh, we fucked up by leaving that dragon body in the lake back in the day. Like he's like, we got to cut the shit. They're coming.
Yeah. Now, actually, taking a step back before the show even starts, the intro.
Oh, the intro.
The most dramatically different intro we've
Great.
seen yet.
Showing basically just the two areas, right? Which
That's
is like
it?
Well, 3 areas. We get the Wall, we get Winterfell, and then we get King's Landing.
That's it.
And we get
'Cause
the
that's where our
and we get the
characters are.
progression of where the blue is flipping to
Yeah,
like where the
where
armies
they're
are at.
So
great.
damn cool.
But
But I
I-
love that it went into
we get
Winterfell
in
and it
there.
goes
We
into
see
King's
the
Landing.
what is the area called with the catacombs where the Starks
dragon
are all-
heads are at? The
No,
crypts?
they show the
crypts.
crypts where all the Starks
Stark family
are.
crypts?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's all building
Oh,
itself.
so
and,
cool.
And I love that because it's like, hey, you're going to get a lot more detail about these areas. This is where we're at. This is where it's boiled down to. This is the final four or whatever, to put it in Andy's stupid sports analogies.
Yeah, Final Four, dude. But then, yeah, we also see the one catacomb of where all the dragons' heads are, where they first in season 7, where they show off the big
Catapult.
catapult
Gun.
crossbow
Scorpion
gun or
thing.
whatever.
Crossbow, yeah.
Scorpion. There
the
you
one
go.
that kills the, dragon.
The
Yeah.
giant dragon killer.
And
That,
this is
doesn't
just
kill
a dumb Tim thing, but in the little like recap story thing before they played the intro, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where it's like the plot recap of the last couple seasons.
previously on.
It cut from Dinklage shooting the crossbow at his dad to its shot, and then it cut to the shot of the dragon getting taken down.
Yeah,
And I'm like, is this foreshadowing?
maybe.
Is he turning on Daenerys?
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Just saying.
Well, we are also seeing that crossbow later.
Later.
Oh, yeah.
We're not there
What
yet.
a
Don't jump
crossbow.
too far ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So,
sorry, Andrea. we
That's
have to
okay.
apologize.
So
in advance.
after Bran is, I wrote in my notes, awkward AF.
Yeah.
The next scene is Sansa and Tyrion reuniting since she escaped King's Landing when she was still technically married to him. Of course, an unconsummated marriage that was then, overturned by her marriage to Ramsay Bolton, who became, dog food in season
Great
7,
scene.
which was amazing, after the Battle of the Bastards. So Sansa and Tyrion have this conversation. I have a note here that says this scene is lame.
Which scene?
The
was
scene
lame?
between Sansa and Tyrion when he's coming into Winterfell. He hasn't been back to Winterfell in quite some time either. And him saying, oh, hey, you're different now. Her being like, you're different now. And they had this little bit of a banter where she accuses him of putting too much faith into his sister because, of course, Tyrion had to announce to that room full of people about how the Lannister army is marching north to join the fight against the army of the dead, and of course,
That's
and
total
she's like,
good call,
it's not
right?
Gonna fucking
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And he's like, I trust him, right? I trust that. And she's like, no, it's not gonna happen.
I used to
And
think
they
you're
have-
the cleverest.
Yeah, they have that
man in the
great
world.
line where she looks at him. She's like, I used to think you were the most clever person on around, but you're not. You're clearly a fucking idiot, and I know better than you because I've been through more shit than you have now at this point.
So here's the thing: is like I kind of like this, and I also hate it. So I like what they're doing with Tyrion, where it's not just this line. It's like they also started off with when they're coming in with Varys, and Varys is like, "You're not as sharp as you used to be." And I like that they're building this thing of Tyrion's kind of falling apart. And even going back to last season, there was the scene where him and Cersei, something's going on with him and Cersei. There's a secret we don't know. So maybe he is
baby thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on with Tyrion, but God, I want Sansa to die. I want Sansa to die. The
Why?
worst,
I
most
hate her
fucking
so much. I
horrific
hate her
death.
so
much. Wow.
I hate her character.
I
Yeah,
and I've
where's
hated
that coming
I've hated her
from?
story for so long, and I just feel like it's one of those things where they've told us that she's supposed to be a badass instead of showing us that she's a badass. And her talking to Tyrion, I'm like, don't talk to my boy like that. Get the fuck out of here.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
I understand your anger. She's kind of been a wishy-washy character until she really took the reins
she wore
in
black.
last season. Until she wore black.
And then she was cool.
And the scene that I kind of skipped over is the hall scene where all of the lords of the North are gathered and they're kind of doing a roll call of who they have, and that's when Tyrion had announced that the army was coming, because I don't think much happens in that scene.
Well, there's a
some
part where
just some
the little
posturing.
kid comes in and
Lord
they're like, "Where are your
Umber.
people?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Go
Ned
back and get your
Umber.
people right fucking now."
Right.
And then that kid gets spiked to a fucking wall.
I love that we're at a point where everyone's dead, so all the lords are just these little ass
little
kids.
kids.
They're like, I guess I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Don't we get Leanna also calling out
Jon Snow.
John?
Yeah,
she's like,
saying
"Hey,
we named,
well,
you,
you
we
were
named you
king."
king of the North, and now you bend the knee. Yeah, I was really kind of disappointed that she took such a hard stance.
That's
But you
her.
have to remember that none of these people have seen the White Walker army, so they don't know what's at stake. They haven't. They weren't with Daenerys and Jon and the Brotherhood beyond the wall, where she had to rescue them, and she saw finally with her own eyes the massive army of the dead
There
that's
is-
coming to kill them.
Something interesting that I think is happening that we're not getting a lot of attention on, where like John is like, "Hey man, I had to do this to get her to come with me," but that's not true. She agreed to it beforehand, and then afterwards, when like she saves him, that's when he was like, "You're my queen." So it's interesting
I
that
thought,
he's
I
not.
thought they left it sort of like, you're gonna eventually do this.
Correct. Yes.
Like,
Daenerys,
you're gonna bend a knee to me eventually. And he was
Yes.
like, nah, I'm not gonna really do it. She goes, cool, I'm gonna fight with you guys, but it's gonna happen eventually. And then eventually it was just like,
They're still playing the love plot bullshit, though. of
Which I
like,
don't
is he
like.
doing? Me neither.
I don't like that. I think it's still, I stand by the fact that these two actors, love them, have zero chemistry together.
It's like
fucking
we
hate
gotta
the
move.
fact
We gotta
that-
move. They're together.
I hate that they're together. I think it's dumb. And I love that they're starting to plant the seed of the fact that he's the real king and he's gonna have to, they're gonna have a come to Jesus at a certain
Mad
point
Queen,
with
baby.
this.
Burn it down.
It's going to happen probably sooner than later. So the next scene that we have is Arya and Jon Snow reuniting in the Godswood, which is a really nice little
Fantastic.
scene.
That was a great scene.
Between the two of them.
And he's
of
like,
course,
how did you sneak up on me? She's like, you have no fucking idea. what I
I'm
went
a
through."
nasty
Fucking
assassin.
dagger to the heart.
Her face, though, like when it goes from her being super serious to just so happy to see him, it's like that.
We
is
haven't seen her
awesome.
smile like that since probably season
Season
one.
one. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, she's had a lot go down. I mean, so has Jon too, though. They
See, I want
both
to
had
go
it
back to
pretty rough.
Sansa though. Like I appreciate where your head's at with Sansa, but I like this character because I like the fact that she has, for better or for worse, turned into Lady Stark. Like she is her mother now. She is the person who's realized like the full weight of Winterfell is actually on her shoulders, not on Jon Snow's shoulders. He's out there fighting a war, and she's got to keep. Like she has that great line where she's like, great, you got 2 more armies coming. How the fuck are we going to feed them?
Yeah.
Like, how are we supposed to feed them and 2 what do dragons even eat? And then get that flex moment where she's like, Daenerys is like,
Whatever they want.
It's not a real answer,
Well,
though.
I mean,
Not a real
it's
answer.
not, because I think the thing that Sansa is concerned about that everyone isn't thinking of is the long game, right? Obviously, Jon is concerned about the moment now, the battle
Right.
they have to fight at their doorstep and surviving. And Sansa's like, okay, cool, if you're successful, and I hope that you are, and we all live, we're still probably all going to die from starvation because winter is going to be long, and we need to be able to make it through the winter into the next spring.
Well, and that's
right?
what I like about these 2 characters. John's playing the, hey, we all have to band together and fight this war, and Sansa's like, hey, great, there's still politics at play here. Like, you guys all have to remember this shit. Yeah, that's great, but you look at it on a macro level or a micro level, no, macro level, and there's still going to have to be some consequences to this. Like, you think her army is going to come from King's Landing? It's not. They're waiting at bay to see who's left over to fucking kill us all. She gets it.
Yeah.
It's like in A Bug's Life, Tim.
Exactly like
Where
that.
Please explain,
they're gathering
expound.
the seeds
In A Bug's
for the big
Life.
rainfall, right? Because then they start running out of the seeds, Kevin, and the crickets come and
yeah.
they start taking them, and they're like, "Well, where are we gonna get more seeds? We're running out of seeds. What do dragons eat?" You know, just like in Bug's Life.
Good
man.
question.
All
Good
right,
job,
thanks,
Andy.
Thanks, guys.
Great job, Andy.
I do like how they have a little show and tell with Needle and Longclaw. They both show each other their swords. And then at the end of the scene, she gives him a hug and then reminds him to not forget that he's a Stark and to take care of the Starks.
Which I didn't
But
like.
he is half Stark.
Yeah.
Why didn't you like
But
that?
that's not
I
how it
just-
works.
No, it's not. But
Dialogue-wise, I just feel like it's rushing character shit, and I
They
just
have
didn't
to,
like
though. They
with
got 6
Arya.
episodes.
I get it, but
Also-
like I feel like Arya at this point doesn't. Why does she care about the Starks? She is so fucking warped and has seen the bigger
Well-
world.
well, because I
She
think,
did.
Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Sorry, she gave up like the faceless men to be like, oh, I want to go help my family. So,
Yeah.
like,
I
I
get
think
it.
that those are planted. My big problem with that scene is like, man, now she's all in on Sansa's team.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
It's
like, all right, slow down.
I don't think it's that, but
no,
I
I do think she is like the mediator. In
I think
between
she's the
them.
middle ground. I think
she's
she's
the
saying,
one that
hey,
says like, "Hey,
don't give too much to these
Yeah.
to Daenerys because you are a Stark and you owe your people something big." And that's what's so fascinating about Jon at this point, because he's like, he is torn between these 2 worlds.
It's like she's kind of like
But also, she hasn't seen what he's seen either, right? I don't think Arya's seen the Army of the Dead.
No.
Once this next episode happens, when they actually strike, I think you're going to see a lot different.
I don't
tone
think
with
it's the
everyone.
next episode. I think it's the following
You
episode.
think this is all the next one's just build up? Because they
It's
said like,
all
oh,
build
they're
up.
striking, they're coming down.
Yeah.
It's like, this is gonna be so fucking good.
I think it ends
Also,
with, like-
have we seen the dragon's glass yet at this point? Because they start bringing in the barrels of it. And it's
Yes.
cool.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
It is
the
cool.
the wagons of it. And I'm like, oh, I forgot that that was part of the deal with Daenerys, right?
Yeah.
Was, hey, you've got all this dragon's glass, like you need to start shipping this shit to us now so we can make weapons.
That
And
was
then
the deal with
Gendry's there.
Stannis.
Was that Stannis?
No.
She started that, or he started that deal with Stannis, because Stannis is the one that lived on Dragonstone.
Stannis was dead.
no, this
We're talking about like
Yeah,
back in
way
the
like
seasons
3
ago.
seasons ago. That's where they start mining there.
No, I think you're confused about that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I just
No, I'm
watched-
sure.
No, we knew that the dragon
I just
glass
watched
was
two.
there, but it wasn't until Jon Snow
was told by
went beyond the wall and
Samwell.
discovered with Sam, and Sam sent a raven to remind him, like, hey, I found this research. Like, this is why the White Walker, I was able to kill that White Walker. It was because of the dragon glass weapon that I had that we found at the Fist of the First Men. And that's when he's like, you must go get the dragon glass from.
You're
from
sitting on a
Daenerys.
but
mountain of dragon glass.
I believe it's Stannis that sends off what's his face, his friend.
Oh, either way, they got the
Davos.
dragon
Yeah, it
glass,
doesn't
which is
matter.
great.
No, not Davos. His John's friend.
And we get.
I was
we
talking
get,
to
forgetting his
Barrett.
name.
I was talking to
Samwell.
Barrett. Yes.
Samwell. He sends him south because there is some time that Stannis spends at the Castle Black. It doesn't matter though.
I was talking to Barrett yesterday that like this is such a video game moment of them recruiting Gendry to be the blacksmith, and
Yeah,
now he's like
dude.
out there,
Yep.
like he's gonna
Yeah.
be the weapons guy,
It's
and you
cool.
go talk to him, and you get missions from him. So
I also love the
Yeah.
fact that he's like, hey, this shit really hard to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not easy to make a big axe out of this stuff.
Really weird that he's making a big axe for
the
what's
Hound?
his? Yeah, like the Hound's never used an
yeah,
axe.
he used an axe in
in the hard. Well, not the hard. The one where they go to up north.
Yeah, I forgot
The
that.
Hound
fucking
uses whatever the hell
Probably
a
because
hand
it's
wants.
easier to make an axe than a longsword, I would guess.
Or whatever fucking weird rifle thing Arya wants.
Yeah, what is
What's
that?
up with that?
So into it, whatever it is.
Let's wait,
We'll
let's
get
get
to
there, 'cause
that.
that's
We'll
a
get to
great
that in a
scene.
second. So
Legendary
now we go to King's Landing. We get on our way there to a scene with Cersei and Qyburn. We get a shot of Euron on one of his ships with all of these soldiers, who we then in the next scene find out are the Golden Company. So Euron making good on his promise to Queen Cersei, because man, he really wants to bang her.
He really
real
wants that.
bad.
He really
so
wants
he
that.
goes and hires the Golden Company with the money from the Iron Bank that Cersei has, secured, and then we get a scene with Cersei and Qyburn where Euron shows up. So I knew that they were going to do a little bit of like fast traveling, because there's all of these fan speculations about who from across the Narrow Sea is going to come and join the fight. Is Melisandre coming back from Volantis? We don't know yet, but turns out the Golden Company made it. Do you guys know
not all of
anything
them.
about this general?
No,
Yeah,
but he
well,
looks like
there-
Lawrence
there's-
from Funhouse.
He kind of
He
does.
looks like Lawrence from Funhouse.
But before that, we get the shot of him talking to his sister, right?
That's after, actually.
that's after, okay.
Yeah. So there's a cut to a scene with Euron in the ship with Yara confirming that yes, indeed,
His niece.
she is alive.
Niece, excuse me,
His
not
niece,
sister.
yes.
That's Theon's sister.
So
Yeah.
Theon left at the end of season 7 to go say, I have to go get my sister. She came to rescue me. I have to go rescue her.
That was after he was like, well, everyone's dying. I'm going to jump off this boat.
Yeah, this feels like
Really
the
sad.
kind of like rushed Game of Thrones stuff to me, where I feel like had we had the seasons to kind of like give this story some time, it would have made more sense. Because like I feel like it's just a rush thing of them being together and then separating him just for him to come back immediately and save her.
But see, but you're forgetting that great scene last season where he got his ass kicked on the beach, right? And he was like, I'm going. And finally stood up for himself.
He wins that
finally
fight.
was
But
like,
I feel like
because
we've
he's psycho
killed him.
now.
Yeah.
He
Because he's
killed
like,
him.
I got no dick. I don't have to
We've
worry about
already
anything
redeemed him
anymore.
a couple times though. It's like
Yeah.
it just feels like.
But I don't need any more of
It
this. I'm
reminds
like,
me of Walking Dead, where it's like Morgan and Carol like keep going back and forth between like.
It was a very rushed sort of redemption thing. Like they wanted you to, they quickly needed the fans to see that Theon is somebody to root for again.
But that's
it was done
By
very
the way,
quickly
that's
for sure.
this whole episode though. This whole episode is, hey, this is going to be the episode you get where you finally get all of the people back in the same scene that you want, and you want to see how they interact with each other. But guess what? We only have an hour, so get out of it. Like I wanted to see the Jon Snow, Arya. But hey, that's cool. Arya and the Hound, great. Sansa and Jon, great. We get 5 seconds with each one of these people, and it's like speed dating. Get
This is
out.
a
We gotta
show
get to the next
reunion.
one.
And that's
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
and I'm down for that. But my problem with the Theon thing is I feel like they just separated them 2 episodes ago. It's
Right.
just like that reunion.
But that was
had
also,
no-
if you remember, in real time, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
According to when the seasons actually came out from each other.
I just wish they had gone a little bit further with the scene, and I wish that like it would be done. I wish that like when he lets her out, the uncle comes down, kills her, and then he escapes. That's what I was hoping for.
Dude,
and then it's
I-
like, oh, now he's gonna go back to Winterfell and join that group.
Dude,
Well, you guys are kind of skipping ahead to a scene that we haven't gotten to yet, but we can just jump there if you
That's
really
fine.
want to.
Oh, no, it's fine. That was all I had to say.
A lot of
Like,
back
I
and
just
forth
wish that
I
don't like that
He's-
storyline.
he
I'm
serves-
over
He
it.
clearly just serves a plot purpose here. He's a plot device more than like a meaningful character, and I understand why he's there, because something that Yara says later, which we'll get to, is important, right?
That straw is comically long.
I know. I pulled it out of the bag. Anyway, it's a stainless steel straw for people who are listening to this episode. Okay, so I think one of the lines I wrote down was one of the funnier lines, and I don't know how pertinent this is going to be. Is the exchange between Euron and Cersei, where he's like. And rightly so, right? So he shows up. He's done literally everything she's asked for. He brought her like the mother of the Sand Vipers. He went out and got the gold cloaks that she
Didn't
wanted,
go to the
or the
elephants,
Golden
though.
Company. And
No
so,
elephants. That's
No
cheap.
elephants.
Funny. Like
but-
people really wanted the elephants.
Yeah, and she says, so he's like, yo, when are we gonna actually get busy? Like, you told me that I was gonna be your king, you're gonna be my queen, and we need to consummate this and do this. And Cersei's like, not until after the war. And he's like, wars go on a long time. And then she says, you want a whore, buy one. You want a queen, earn her.
Hell yeah.
And that's when he's
That
like,
was cool.
what more do you want, woman? And
Yeah.
she's like, elephants. So
I would love to think of her not. She's like, all right, you're right. All right, let's do
But
this.
here-
yeah,
here's
she
the thing,
does.
though.
Yeah.
But then she still ends up giving it up.
She
and
does.
It's, and it's because, well, go ahead.
Well, go for it.
Well, I was going to say because Cersei's still playing the politics game, right? Realizes that if I don't do this at this point, this psychopath that's standing in front of me might get a little crazy. He's got a whole army out there that I need. So, like, I've got to play this game.
I take it a little differently.
think it's
than
the
that.
pregnancy
I think
thing.
it's the pregnancy thing where now she's over Jamie. She's like, fuck Jamie. We need to kill him. I need a new excuse. This isn't Jamie's baby.
What
I
happened
need
with
to
Jamie
play
at
like
the
it's
end
Euron's baby.
of the end of season? Jamie was
left.
like,
He fled.
I'm leaving,
He's
right?
like, you're crazy,
Yeah.
bitch.
No,
I'm out.
no. He said, he was like, look, we made an oath that
give
we're
him the
going to
army,
march
right?
north, and
she
I'm
said,
not
"We're
going
not
to turn
doing it."
back on that word. And so he turns around, and the mountain's standing there, and he's like, you're really going to kill me right now? And she looks at the mountain and she
You're not
like
gonna kill
nods
me.
and he busts out the sword and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And he just walks and he's like, you won't do it. And he just walks and he rides the horse away.
And then the
the
snow
snowflake falls. Yeah.
That was cool.
Well, yeah, I
Really
think that she banged Euron to be able to say that the baby's
It's his-
his.
yeah.
And that's
But
why we
wouldn't
get
that
that
then
really
make-
awkward scene of like, I'm gonna put a prince in you. It's like, all right, there's one already there,
Yeah.
dude.
But at the end, but then you get
Or
that.
is there?
But you get that moment, right, where she's like, where she breaks after he leaves, and you can tell there is like it's still traumatic for her to have to be putting herself in these
Is
situations.
she still drinking wine too?
Yeah, so it's
Is
funny
she?
because the second time I watched the episode, under her breath at the end of that scene, she says, "I really wanted those elephants." As she's drinking.
Really?
She
That's
does.
hella
and I
funny.
missed it
Wow.
the first time that I watched the episode. The second time I picked it up and I
I
was
would like to think that that's like a commentary on them running out of budget and like DB like Weiss and Benioff being like, fuck, like, we can't have elephants. Like it's gonna be a lot of
We
money
gotta
for the
reference
CG,
it.
man. Like,
That's so funny. But is she actually drinking wine?
She is
or
drinking
just
wine.
holding it.
She took a sip
no,
of
she
it.
took a sip.
She
Yeah.
did she?
But
I
also
don't
like
think they
back,
care about
back
wine
then,
and
yeah.
pregnancies in that
A lot
era.
of times, wine and beer were actually safer to drink than actual like river water or tap water or whatever because of the way that they ferment it and the alcohol killing the bacteria. That's some like deep cuts medieval knowledge for you. But before that scene happened,
That's why we got you, Andrew.
There was an insert scene with Bronn and the whores, and I wrote in my notes here, this is just George R.R. Martin again reminding you that he's the pervious perv, because why not have a gratuitous sex scene
Gotta
just
have
for
it.
the sake of having a gratuitous sex scene?
Yeah.
And I was really
It's
happy
Bronn,
that in the
man.
the later seasons of Game of Thrones, they really scaled that back. If you did a rewatch like most of us here did, you notice in the first couple seasons, there's a lot of tits.
Yeah.
And listen, they looked beautiful. It was great.
Yeah.
It was fine. It served a purpose. But like, did this scene need to happen in a brothel?
I remember there
Probably
being
not.
at some point a switch
he
from,
hangs out.
hey, we're going to stop showing boobs and start showing male dick. And I remember there being like, that's a lot of dick in this episode.
Well, there's a
which is
very
fine.
there's a very important scene sort of transition
Male dick.
I
where
don't know why I just put male dick in
where
front of it.
Arya
As
is
opposed to
watching
horse dick? I don't
Arya is
know.
watching the play of the actors reenact the whole story of everything, and it's
Yeah.
like the theater with all the writing or whatever, and then you see the guy playing Tyrion rips off the girl's shirt and it's boobs. Immediately cuts to a dude holding his dick and balls and being like, I think those 2 warts on it. But it was like such a weird cut of like tits, dick. Like,
Yeah.
wow,
Game of Thrones, man.
It's great.
So this is where Qyburn comes to Bronn and says, "Hey, Cersei has a job for you." And, you know, Cersei rewards people, and he talks about how he started out, and then now he's the queen, the Hand's queen, and that Bronn is owed a debt by the Lannisters. And of course, we know the Lannisters always pay their debts, and clearly Jaime nor Tyrion made good on what they told Bronn they were going to give him. And Cersei's prepared to do that if he kills her brothers, which I thought was really interesting. And in the second time I watched it, I made sure he said brothers,
Yeah,
plural.
brothers.
So she wants Bronn to kill both Jaime and Tyrion, and she wants him to do it with the crossbow that Tyrion used to kill Tywin.
Dope
and that is
shit.
fucked up.
It's fucked up.
What's the
Not
over
gonna
under
happen.
that Bronn's going to actually
0%
do?
Zero.
I feel
Yeah.
like Bronn, because Bronn, he makes that statement, right, of, you know, I was given all these things and then the queen took them away from me.
Yeah.
And so I think he kind of gets that he's like, none of this shit's for real. The only thing that's really for real is like whatever I can provide for myself. And I feel like he's getting on a horse and he's just riding north. That's it. He's
I can
not
already
gonna-
see
he's
how
not
the
doing
scene
any of this
goes.
shit.
Like they meet up and he has the crossbow and he shoots it at the ground, and then Jaime says something like, "You would never go with a crossbow," and he's like, "You would never go with that hand," or some shit like that. It's some
I hope
bullshit.
he gives them the crossbow and he's like, your sister wanted me to give you this.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
In the moment, I felt so angry because all I could think was how much both of the Lannister brothers have done for Bronn, and he is in the position he's at right now because of Tyrion and because of Jaime. And the idea that he would turn his back on them for some promise from
stupid.
Cersei
No,
is
he's not
like,
doing
no
it.
This
way,
scene,
dude.
this scene is so empty, and it's weirdly fan servicey of like everyone loves Bronn, so it's like let's give him something to do. But I'm like, Cersei, out of all the people in the fucking world you can ask to kill these guys, he's the worst person asked to do it.
But again, this is Game of Thrones. We don't know. Maybe that's her plan. Maybe she knows he's not going to do it, and she's going to send
And
some.
then what?
Who knows? I don't know.
So yeah, let's send him with them.
She's the only person. Her and Sansa are the only person still playing the game. I'm just going to put that out there. Everyone else is
That's a good
all
point.
trying to get
the game, and when you play him,
Exactly.
Who's this at?
Triple H.
Triple H.
Last time we had Tyrion talking to Bronn, he was like, "I'll give you double," and he's like, "You're gonna be double like of a castle." and like
The
twins,
dude. Yeah. I still think that he comes to him and he's like, I'm still gonna give you double if you join us. He joins them and he becomes the dude that leads the twins. Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
That'd be cool.
We'll see. So we already talked a little bit about Yara being rescued by Theon, and he says
With
that.
SEAL Team 6, apparently.
Well, no,
They figured out finally, they were like, what we should
those
do?
shots, dude.
Get a bunch of highly trained dudes that are stealth as fuck
Yeah.
and sneak aboard the ship and steal her. It was dope.
everything has to be an eye shot. Everything.
Metal Gear
Including
Solid
the
2.
axe to the eye. Which is the most violent thing we saw in this entire episode.
Yeah, that
takes the
gash
axe out of the
was
dude's face.
fucking vulgar.
That was violent.
so he manages to rescue her, and then they get Yara aboard Theon's ships. We see the Kraken flag. And what I thought was interesting was they have this dialogue, and Yara's trying to remind him why it's important for them to go to the Iron Islands to retake them from Euron's forces, because they're largely undefended at this time because Euron's pulled all of the ships away to go get the Golden Company for the Queen. And she's like, now is the time we have to take them back. And Theon's like, no, I have to go fight with the Starks. And she's like, but we're going to need a place to retreat to if the first battle goes poorly, and what better place to retreat to than the islands where the White Walkers can't get us. And I think that's going to maybe some foreshadowing of something we can expect later in this final season.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that I'm
well,
crazy there?
the fact that
I don't
Yara's
know.
going
I
back
don't-
there means that like at least something's going on. But I'd be surprised if we see many more places besides Winterfell and King's Landing going forward. But
We're just running out of time.
we're just running out of
Yeah.
time. But yeah, but Yara, she's alive. They would have killed her off if we weren't going back.
Right.
I wish they
But
killed
also,
him.
like, if they have to retreat to those islands, that means
not
a
good.
lot of shit went bad.
Yeah.
That means the entire
They lost the
mainland
north.
is gone. I mean,
Yeah.
and the south, right? You have to assume, like, if that's the last respite, which would be a fucking awesome ending to this whole thing, is if they're all like they're just held up on these islands and they're like, hopefully no one can get to us, and then like, the last scene you see is the
water freeze over.
army where they're either freezing there or they just figured out, hey, we can use boats
Or they just
too.
kill like a big whale. Make like the whale.
Zombie whale.
It's like Dune, but in the water. They
Oh
just-
my gosh. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to use that. It could be a place for them to regroup, or maybe they'll, make some kind of sea-based attack to the army. Who knows how the Iron Islands are going to be used, but I thought it was an interesting piece of dialogue. Then we cut to a scene between Varys and Tyrion, who, of course, have many times over the course of Game of Thrones episodes been conspiring together, and now they're both working for Daenerys, and
It's so fun having all these characters together.
I know.
Yeah.
We skipped a scene where they were when they were coming in together in the
in
carriage,
the
and he keeps like, "Why do you
Palanquin, yeah.
think it's funny to make all these jokes about me not having balls, but you can't take a joke about you being short?" And he's like, well, "I don't know, because I have balls."
That's true.
I'd say
Total
Pat-
dude bro talk.
I'd
right
say
there.
over like the whole series, their conversations have been the most
best.
So good,
entertaining.
yeah.
Well, because
so
they're
well
two
written
smart
and witty,
characters
and,
who are
Yeah.
actual friends.
Yeah.
And trust each other to some degree, however much you can trust someone in this world.
So they have a little banter back and forth, but then we get to one of the most exciting scenes of the whole episode: dragon flight, dragon lessons with Jon and Dany. And it's interesting how some of the Dothraki come to her and say, "We're worried the dragons aren't eating enough," and she gets very concerned, and they both run out there, and she's like, "Oh, they don't like the cold, they don't like the north," and just out of the blue, they decide they're going to go for a little ride.
Just a little flight.
Confirming the fan theories that as part Targaryen, the
Dragon's
dragon
gonna be
allows Jon Snow to get on his back. And it's funny because he's like, I've never ridden a dragon. How do you ride a
False.
dragon? And she's like, any way you
You
can.
ended the last season doing it.
And he's like, well, wait, what?
He was riding
saying
the dragon.
sex.
Oh,
With,
sex.
Dragon.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I have a line
As
down
Tyrion
here.
was down the room like,
He's like, what happens, like if I fall off or if the dragon eats me or whatever? And she's like, well, then I've enjoyed your company, Jon Snow.
He goes, "What happens if he doesn't want me to ride him?" She goes,
Yeah.
"Then I've enjoyed your company. He's gonna fucking eat you."
And then they have this cool little scene where they ride the dragons, and then
Wait, so-
afterwards he says, "You've completely ruined horses for me." So thanks for
I
that.
also love that he took her to his fuck cave.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
is that where he fucked?
No.
No, that was in the
no.
north. But I love
Yeah.
that like there's a thing of like Jon Snow fucks in caves. Like,
And they have they do have a great moment here too, where she's like, we could just stay here for
1,000
and no
years,
one would
she
ever
says,
know.
yeah.
And
which
he
is
goes, yeah,
Ygritte said something similar.
Yeah, very
when they got
similar.
out of the cave. It's like we could just
we could just fuck off.
Yeah.
Stay here. And he's like, we can't. I Oh, sorry, I had a thought. It's gone.
I love the dialogue they have here, where it's so cheesy, corny. I don't give a shit. This is fucking good writing to me. Where she has the line about
I'm
like,
cold.
I'm cold. It's just like, keep your queen warm. Like, fuck yeah, let's go. Dude.
go get it.
Oh, that's the other question. So here's my question.
Just in my bed alone, like, woo!
He's a Targaryen, right?
Yeah.
Which means that he is technically related to her.
He's cousins.
Yeah.
with
They're
her.
cousins.
No, his
Niece and aunt.
nephew and aunt. Yeah.
Does that mean that
you're right.
he
I'm sorry.
does he get burned by fire?
She's
Different.
real special in that case.
Yeah.
Because
she's pure blood.
there's a whole bunch of theories that like
He's a
there's-
mudblood.
There's like a bunch of like magic happening right when she's about to get burned by fire. Also, she might just be fireproof. Because
Interesting.
there's a bunch of people that get killed right before she gets burned, and like there's theories that like those people are being sacrificed to make her
Because
invulnerable
like, they're
to fire.
burning
Yeah.
that
She
like
also-
witch lady, right?
Yeah, she-
Because her brother wasn't fireproof, right?
No.
But
Yeah,
there's,
yeah,
Melt his
no, but
fucking
there's
face
also a
off
lot of
with shit.
theories about when she was born and like the storm that happened on the day of her birth, and I mean that's like some really deep cuts
Okay,
lore
but then
stuff.
the second question I have is then she obviously can control the dragons on a level like she has like a level of
Drogon.
communication with them. Does he have any of that if he's a Targaryen
So,
or no? Because
the-
the dragon looked at him like, "Yo, bro."
Well, the
know
dragon's
Dude,
named
the-
after him, technically. His dad,
his dad.
technically.
Thank
the
you,
man.
Greg.
Well,
The,
sir.
the dragon looked at him like, "Hey, dude, you're getting real comfortable there." You know, gave him one of those looks like,
that's my
"I don't
mom."
like you hanging out with my mom this way, dude."
Like, bro,
Yeah.
like, you're not my dad.
Yeah.
You're not my dad.
Where Jimmy,
so
man?
The idea is that she's bonded with Drogon.
The red one.
Yeah, the biggest one.
Yeah.
And like can control him kind of with her mind. Like so when she gets scared, he gets scared. We see that kind of when he comes and saves the day and they're in the pit.
pits.
Yeah.
Season 5.
So maybe he's bonded with the other one now. Was it Rhaegal?
yeah.
Viserion's the one with the
Viserion's,
the bad
yeah,
one.
he's
Yeah.
dead now.
Yeah.
He's the one that's
blue
burning
one.
blue,
Undead.
which I got a lot of. I got a
It's
lot
like
of tweets
that
over
you
the
kind of
weekend.
want him to win.
He
You know
burns
what I mean?
blue,
He
yeah.
burns blue.
in the books, like when a dragon bonds with someone, it's like a super special thing, and like no one else can fly him. Yeah, so it's interesting right now if she just burned the like flying card for him, where they're bonded and he can only fly him.
I mean,
Well, that
cool though.
that seems like the right call though.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'll tell
Right?
you this though: if anyone
Who else is gonna be the
had
dink?
any doubt that Jon Snow was like a good leader, seeing him ride a dragon 30 feet above them
And not fall
would-
off.
yeah, not
But he
fall off. I'd be
also-
like, that's cool.
He looked
I like that
terrified.
guy.
I loved
How
all the
could you not be?
shots.
I was terrified the
Oh,
first time
100%.
I rode a horse,
Yeah.
and that thing was
I'm
just
terrified to get in
trotting.
my car and drive every day.
And also, like, how is it that them riding dragons? And I'm also thinking about season 7, the scene where they first attacked the Lannister
In, like,
army,
8.
and Jaime's like he sees the kill shot and he picks up the spear to go kill Daenerys. And the dragon just like, Bronn and him fall into the water. That scene where she's getting off the dragon. How is it that CG looks better than Mark Ruffalo in the Iron Buster, in the Hulk Buster suit? It
Again,
blows my
budget.
mind how good the CGI looks in this
Yeah.
show.
If you want to take a closer look at that, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that HBO did as part of their
After the show
special
thing.
special series. They did a special interview with the VFX team. They did a bunch of cast interviews. It was on Facebook. I believe it's on HBO Go as well.
I think you find
and they
it
talk
YouTube,
about the visual effects director. It's actually really fascinating because you don't stop to think that they're making a 10-hour visual effects heavy movie every year, and so they have to work like way harder than a lot of these movie teams
Their
do.
crunch mates must be crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll disagree with you a little bit though, because I thought some of the dragon stuff when they were standing in front looked terrible.
Yeah, it looked
Like
really
when they
bad.
were standing in front of the dragons, when the dragon was like kicking the bones of the goats, I didn't think that looked very good.
And also
But
when they got off of them, like right after the flight, like
Yeah.
when they were standing
This is
around
the most
them, it looked-
not
nitpicky
great.
fanboy
But-
bullshit I've ever heard.
This is what
Those
we do here.
dragons
This is
look
what we do.
amazing.
I look at
I
that.
also
disagree.
think that, but I was also using HBO Go where the quality isn't quite there.
yeah,
I
me
guess
too,
I'm
so
just-
I'm watching it 720p,
Yeah.
but
I'm just comparing it to the blockbuster of the $1 billion
War.
making in Endgame and Infinity War, where it's like Hulk looks bad. In that.
You're
Hulk
being
looks
real
bad,
bad.
yeah.
But what I will say is this is shout out to the team for the world they create, and what you don't realize is that like 80% of every time you see an army, Winterfell, any of those things has some sort of CG, in it, which is very, very
beautiful.
impressive.
And like most
And
environments.
that's really where it, honestly, like I don't give a shit what the dragons look like. I really love that they nail King's Landing. I love that they nail like when you see the army coming in, that looks believable, and they add the layers and like the Winterfell in the background and
map
stuff.
painting
That's
stuff.
all I need because that's world building
world.
and that's awesome.
Before we move on, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by MeUndies. You probably spend about 90% of your life in underwear, unless you're Nick Scarpino, and then it's probably closer to 50%.
You're it so much.
That's why I only wear MeUndies. You wearing the little avocados?
The little avocados.
The little avocados. I'm wearing the ones where
I got this.
all of the owners or the employees at MeUndies took pictures of their dogs and had them cartoonized. So I have a bunch of MeUndies owners' dogs.
Oh, I got the
really
camo.
cool.
And Kevin got the camo.
invisible down there.
We love
Sneaky.
MeUndies. We've been talking about them forever. If you just got some MeUndies, right? Is that
Oh yeah, no, we've been fans of MeUndies over at Westcoast Games for a long time too. I was tweeting to them yesterday because I got hella jealous because I love my strawberry onesie. It is the most comfortable onesie I've ever owned, and Leslie Jones, Saturday Night Live fame, was tweeting because she does all these live reactions to Game of Thrones. She was tweeting that MeUndies hooked her up with the Dragons print that they have. Have you seen the new Dragons print?
That's awesome.
It's amazing. I'll show it to you. But she got a onesie in that print, and they don't sell the onesie in that
Custom
print.
thing.
And I'm like, no, MeUndies, help me out. I want that onesie so bad. But I'll show you the dragon print. It's really cool. Those are the
I
aliens.
really dig those turtles,
Hold on.
though.
Yeah, I got
loving these
the
patterns.
strawberry lounge
There it
pants.
is. So
Big fan of
so
those.
they've got fire and ice flames.
Awesome.
So it's just a bunch of dragons on a blue background.
MeUndies,
Anyway,
man, they
yeah.
can do no wrong. I'm telling you, even if you just want a basic print, I love just their solid block colors as well. The blues, the purple is a hot purple. You gotta love it.
Super
you
soft.
can get 15% off a pair of the most comfortable undies you'll ever put on. You just need to go to MeUndies.com/morning. That's MEUNDIES.com/morning to get 15% off your first pair, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee. Andrea, back to the plot.
All right. So, the next scene after we leave the dragon flight is in the smithy with Gendry and the Hound and Arya. And there's this moment between Arya and the Hound where she sees him and is like, what the hell are you doing alive? He's like, what the hell are you doing alive? It's a very much like a game respect game moment. Like
Yep.
she's like, okay, you survived. And he's like, you survived. And it was a nice little moment where he says, you're a cold little bitch.
Yeah.
It's probably why you're still alive.
We've seen a lot of these reunions over the last several seasons where characters are seeing each other for the first time in a long time, and it always ends with it. I mean, even in season 1, where it's Robert Baratheon and what's his face,
Ned.
And it's like, you've gotten fat, and they hug, and it's like, ah. And I knew that this was not going to end in a lovingly embrace. It was just going to be like, what's up, doc? You know,
Yeah.
and it didn't. They just walked away.
But I love how he was like, you left me for dead. She's like, well, I stole all your shit first.
Yeah, great.
That was a great. Are you talking
Yeah.
about the Hound scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he's like, respect.
Yeah.
Game respects game. Because he's like, yeah, you.
That's literally
probably
what
why
I
you're
wrote
alive.
here.
Is that? That's
Game,
great.
respect, game.
That's what it was. He was like, that's why you're
yeah.
still alive.
Exactly.
Kudos to you. I taught you something.
So the real takeaway from this, of course, is that Arya pulls Gendry aside with this special blueprint for a weapon that she wants, and he's like, "Why do you need this?" And like they kind of leave it open-ended as
Yeah.
to like what this weapon is and what she's going to use it
Lots
for,
of
because we already
flirting.
know there's a lot
love
of
it.
flirting,
Love it.
a lot of sexual
That's what I'm
tension.
talking about.
Getting
My
it
lady
on.
I think
shit. All
it's
right.
easy to forget that Arya is like a young woman now, and so she really kind of had to skip all of puberty to get to where she is today, and so it would make sense that she's kind of got some, stirrings.
Do you
for
think
Gendry.
Gendry was like, I need you, here's what I need you to do. I need you to tie me to the bed and put leeches on me. 'Cause that's what I'm real
Once you get
into.
that.
That shit imprinted on me for a young age.
But technically,
Can you also talk in a Danish accent? Thank you.
technically they're cousins, so this would be another
Are they cousins?
yes, because
He's
he
Robert's
is
bastard.
Robert Baratheon's son.
But they're not related to
They're not related to the Baratheons.
Yeah, Baratheons.
She's pure-blood Winterfell, isn't she? Or Stark.
Stark.
Yeah.
Oh, I
They
guess
can
I
get
forgot
it
they're
on.
not actually brothers.
No, the
they just
Baratheons
are
are
like
bros.
brothers.
Yeah, like bros.
They're like homeboys.
But I
Yeah.
think that we're gonna get the finally
We're gonna
the
get
the
it.
joining
They're
of
gonna get it.
Stark and Baratheon that we wanted
With
from
Arya and Gendry?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm into it.
That's
I'm into
weird.
it.
If they all last, who knows?
Why is
Maybe
that
they all
weird?
get fucking killed. Maybe Walter Frey comes back from the dead and just has them all stabbed at their fucking
That's the
wedding.
thing.
Ew,
Who's
she
coming
would-
back from the dead? Because they've built up the whites and all this shit. We're gonna see someone
Definitely
we know.
Benji came
Felch
back
is
like a
definitely
million
coming
times.
back.
Yeah, that's
Benjen.
true.
Benjen.
Yeah,
his
Benji.
what?
Mission
He came
Impossible.
back
Simon
twice.
Pegg comes in.
So I looked up. So over on the Wrap.com, I had to look. I was like, "What the heck is this weapon that she's asked Gendry for?" And so they write, "What it looks like is some sort of modular spear with a dragon glass tip with a shaft that can be split in two on demand. We know the spear tip is intended to be dragon glass because it says dragon glass is the only word written on the page. And this sort of modular design is unusual, but it makes perfect sense for Arya because she's so small and because of the bravosy fighting style that she uses."
Yeah.
I wonder if the other side is going to be the cat's eye, the dagger that she has, because it would be cool if it was dragon glass and the other side Valyrian.
I think that's
steel.
the point, right?
But Valerian doesn't do anything against the White Walkers.
Yeah,
right?
Yes, it does.
It kills them.
It
Oh, it
works
kills
the
them?
Yeah, it
same
blows
way
them fuck
as
up.
dragon glass because in order to make Valyrian steel, you need dragon fire.
Cool.
Yeah, which is, I mean, so it's
Yeah, there's a
important.
scene in
It's
Hard Home
important
where
to
Jon
note,
Snow
though, right, that
cuts him
they've
in half.
said now in this episode that both Arya and Jon have, weapons that will kill White Walkers, which I'm assuming is going to play into the Battle of Winterfell, which of course is coming later this
Wait,
season.
did we see Brianna Tarth at all in this episode?
No.
Yes,
she
yes, we
only
do.
very
We see,
briefly.
she doesn't have a scene, but
She's
we
like-
see her. She's in the opening scene, the opening sequence where everybody's lined up
Got it.
when Daenerys rides in with Jon, and then she's in the kind of the hall gathering where all the lords of Winterfell
'Cause she's-
are
is-
as well.
is
But
she
she doesn't say anything.
She's not Valerian, right? That's not where she's from.
No.
She's from Tarth.
Yeah.
That
the
makes sense.
islands.
That does make sense. Why
The quote Emerald Island, remember?
Got it.
Sapphire Island.
I was trying to figure out, does
Thank
she
you,
have
Kevin.
Valerian steel too or no? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Yes, she
has
does.
the
Oathbringer.
Yeah.
Keeper.
Oathkeeper?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oathbringer is the name of a book I'm reading.
Yeah.
It's confusing. So many fantasies,
Yeah.
so little time. The next scene that we have is between Sansa and Jon. And there's a little line here that I missed the first time I watched talking about Lord Glover. So we know that Sansa's trying to rally all of the Stark bannermen to Winterfell to kind of join together for this big battle that's on its way. And Lord Glover has said, no, I'm going to stay in Deepwood Motte and I'm not going to come join you. And I think that may or may not play into what happens in the next episode, or I don't know. Maybe we just never hear from Lord Glover.
Maybe,
I love that
maybe that's
dude-
just their way of like writing him out.
He's been in this series for fucking ever. If it's the guy that I'm thinking about, just the old dude that's always
this
like
guy.
hanging out with them. What?
That's
Oh,
Glover.
That's the guy.
No.
No.
no,
Yeah,
I'm
I
talking
didn't
about-
think it was
no,
who you
I'm talking
thought.
about.
It's interesting. Like, he just got Deepwood Motte, right? Like, wasn't that where the
That's-
Flayed Man lives?
So that was the place where Yara and Theon were going to take over, and then they had a fight with Ramsay Snow before he became Ramsay Bolton, and there was like a bunch of drama around that because it's close to the Iron Islands.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
close in giant air quotes here, but and so it's kind of played in a little bit, but for the most part, this is a really inconsequential location in the overarching narrative of the story.
Yeah,
but it just it was an interesting line that they included for a reason, right? Like everything's intentional because they're working with such a short timeline. Then I wrote in my notes, there's a bunch of King in the North drama where she's talking about him bending the knee and blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, the stinger at the end of the scene where she asked Jon if he is bending the knee because he's thinking about the North or if he's bending the knee because he's in love with Daenerys.
And he doesn't answer it well.
He doesn't.
He doesn't answer.
Yeah,
it.
he doesn't
he's
answer it,
like,
no.
He just kind of looks like, oh fuck, you got me.
Yeah, it's a-
It's
Yeah.
a quick deflection.
Yeah.
Where he's like, neither. We need to just cut through all this bullshit.
The umbos
Right.
and the Castocks.
Exactly.
That's just like every word he says.
So then we have a fun scene with Samwell, Dany, and Jorah, where we cut to Samwell Tarly in presumably the library at
Is this a
Winterfell.
fun scene?
I think this is the best scene of this episode.
I think it's pertinent, right? Because
And what a performance.
So good.
Yep.
Dude. Sam killing the game.
he's
Nailed
amazing. Jon is great. I think it's important because we see Daenerys acting as a ruler and not as this kind of like love-struck, I mean, basically she's a glorified teenager at this point in the series, right? She's maybe around 19 or 20 around the timeline. And so it's interesting is that so he's down there in the library with his books as he likes to do. And she comes down to
nerd.
thank him for saving Jorah from Grayscale. And it's unclear if Jorah has mentioned who he is, or if Jorah just didn't know that she killed the Tarlys in the last season. It's kind of like, why wouldn't Jorah maybe preface yo, actually.
should have known,
right?
Yeah, that
he-
seems like if you're the hand of that's like your thing to know.
Yeah.
Well, he's not. Remember, he's not the hand of the queen. That's
That's right.
That's
Tyrion
Tyrion's
is.
job. And so she's like, "What can I give to you for bringing Jorah back to me?" And he asks her for a pardon. Then they have a little giggle about him
stealing
asking for a
books.
pardon for stealing the books from the Citadel,
Klepto
and
Sam.
she talks about how she's got to whip the Citadel into shape. And then he says, "Well, I also stole a sword from my family home, but it's technically mine. And it's in my family name. It's like the Tarly sword or whatever." And then she's like, "Tarly, you don't mean like Randall Tarly?" And he's actually, "Yeah, that's my dad." She's like, "Yo, dog, I got something to tell you."
I'm burning that motherfucker all
Burn him, dude.
With
he's
fire
like, well-
so hard that it was just he is immediately ashes.
Oh, right.
There was no bones, there was no corpse. It
Nothing,
just
yeah.
disintegrated. Like
Yeah.
rewatching that
Yeah.
scene, Kevin, crazy.
But then like Sam tries to like salvage where he's like, well, at least I can go home now.
My brother will
'Cause
be
my
the
brother will
Lord.
be
And she's
there.
like, "Yeah, but
fuck.
Yeah, he was with him.
And seeing Sam kind of go from like, I'm sad that my dad died because he's my fucking dad, but also fuck that guy, to like, oh no, but I liked my brother.
Yeah.
And like seeing
Yeah.
him really, it was like, fuck. This
Well,
is
he's
good.
having a conflicted moment, right? Because he wants to be behind Daenerys and he wants to help her, but like wrestling with those emotions in that moment. I thought it was a really well acted scene.
And he also knows the truth about her and Jon.
Yeah.
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 But
But
that's
like still hasn't told him.
But that's when like you can see that resolve start to strengthen.
yeah,
in
I'm
him,
ready
where
to
he's
tell
like,
him.
Like,
Yeah.
like you have to wonder what that kind of news does to a person.
Right.
And like it doesn't engender good feelings toward you or
No.
loyalty. It's like, fuck you. You killed my entire family, even though I didn't like him. Like loyalty is loyalty. And let's be honest, he's loyal to Jon Snow. He doesn't really care about Daenerys in this. It'll be interesting to see where his character goes from
Although
here.
at the same time, he being loyal to Jon, he's also loyal to the fact that he more than most people knows this isn't about politics or anything right now. There's a thing we're dealing with.
yeah,
But there's a-
he's
but
seen the
he-
White Walkers too. Yeah.
But he gets political because he's like, all right, now's the time
Well,
to tell.
now I have to
He
know.
gets
I gotta tell
political
his
because
ass.
creepy Bran comes into the
Wait,
scene.
really quick. Really quick. This is my Nick. You will appreciate the shit out of this tweet. I read this tweet and I laughed a lot because it's such a deep cut. It's like, Samuel, my dog Pungo run over by a carriage. My goldfish Goldie eaten by the cat. My cat choked on the goldfish. Shout out to fucking Robin Hood Men in Tights. Like, what a great tweet, dude.
That's good.
That's good. That's really good.
I really like this scene too. Alyssa pointed this out. It's like it feels like the first time Daenerys was faced with like looking at someone
Consequences.
who had to face the consequences of her dealing with someone who she saw as bad, and her seeing that in someone she thinks is good. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays in with her development for the last 5 episodes, and if she learns from that or if she doesn't.
Yeah, and they also tackle this in the next scene. So we get this little insert of Bran being creepy AF again, where he's like, Samuel, you have to tell Jon because if you guys remember, Bran had said we have to let Jon know about this because Bran and Samuel had a connect the dots moment at the end of last season where Samuel's like, yo, I read this thing in this book, and Bran's like, yo, I saw this thing, and then they were like, it's legit. Like, he's Lyanna Stark's son
Here's my
with
big
Rhaegon.
question.
Legitimate
Did they
son.
just
Yeah.
leave Bran outside? Did no one remember to take him in?
I don't see
He's
any
just
wheelchair
sitting in the
ramps.
same spot the entire time.
thing
Like,
is not
take his
ADA
ass
approved.
inside.
Yes, that's
Well,
that's
we
they
also,
cloned.
If my mom lived there, she would constantly be asking if like he wanted food or
Yeah.
and he'd go,
Yeah.
you want food? You want a sandwich?
pretty
Yeah.
that scene starts out with him being like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm waiting for a friend," and it's like, wait,
Did
who's he
not
talk-
expect that
who's he
friend to
talking
be
about?
fucking
Yeah.
Jamie.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second.
And also, doesn't it end with like, "Shouldn't you tell him you're his brother?" And he's like, "I'm not." And it's
I'm
like,
not.
oh,
Yeah, I
that's
wrote here.
right.
I'm not his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, 'cause it's his
some like
cousin.
real talk.
Yeah.
But like even like metaphorically, you would think Bran would have some kind of feelings for Jon. But then again, when Jon left to go to the Wall and take the Black, Bran was still very young. Back in the
But
early days.
Brand's
of
a
Game of
different
Thrones.
Bran than he was.
Oh, I didn't even put it.
Brand's not even.
I didn't
Bran
even put
anymore.
it together that it was. I'm not his brother because
Is his cousin?
I
Yeah.
put it together. I thought it was like I'm not his brother because I'm
not Bran.
Bran died in that.
I think it's
cave.
multi-
There's a
multi-layered.
ton of
Yeah.
layers in that because like they are brothers in the Night's Watch. Also, Sam is like his closest friend, and he's right. He trusts Sam more than anyone else.
Absolutely.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So Jon and Sam then have a altercation. So Samuel goes down to the crypt and he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't be down
He
here."
trips.
And then, and then
Why?
they're kind of
he's
like
Sam.
they're having their own, reuniting here in a whole episode of people being reunited. And so Sam tells him before he gives him the news, he's like, I'm upset. Did you know that Daenerys did this to my family? What would you have done? He says, would you have done it? Read the executions I have in my notes here. And Jon really having this moment of conflict of hearing how Daenerys did this and him not realizing the way that it all went down. And it's tough because you're in war, and the reason Daenerys did it in that moment was she said, I can't take prisoners. We don't have time to put people in a cell. You're either with me or you're dead. And they decided, well, we were not with you, so they're dead.
I love the deflection though from Jon Snow being like, we need to end this war. When really, you can tell he wanted to be like, "Fuck, I'm sorry, dude."
But he asked me, he's like, "What would you have done?" He goes, "Look, and I've killed people. I've executed people who didn't do what I wanted them to do. Like, this is how it goes." He's like, "But what would you have done in this exact thing?" And he's like, "We're not talking about me right now.
This war sucks.
Let's talk about you,
the war sucks.
What? Dude, war,
Yeah.
It's a burger.
I saw a tweet last night of as Andrea's about to get to the moment where the news is broken or whatever. I saw a great tweet that said, in season 1, when Jon asks his father, Ned Stark, about Ned Stark's going to be like, I'll tell you what your real lineage is when I get back.
Next time I see you.
Next time I see you. And the next time he sees him is inside of the crypt where it's a statue.
So
really,
good.
Really good shot.
So good.
That's
show,
fucking
dog.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's a good moment.
Yeah, it was a really interesting call out. And then, of course, he lays all of the information on him and is like, yo, Jon Snow, you're actually Aegon Targaryen, 6th of his name, and explains the whole thing about who he is. And the
Jon doesn't take it well.
The look
Doesn't take
on
it.
Kit Harington's face of that scene was so well done. I mean, how do you even begin to process that information that your entire life is a lie and that the man who you thought was the most honorable person, which he calls out, has been lying to you? And Samuel's like, well, the reason he lied to you was to protect you, and wrestling with what that means. And of course, when you are in that kind of a deep relationship with someone and you find out they've lied to you about this really big thing, it makes you question literally everything they've ever said to you. I think we've all had a moment in our lives where someone close to you lied to you about something really serious and it fucked your world up because you're like, what else have they been lying about?
Well, there's also the bigger implication, right, of you're the king.
Yes.
And this person you just bent a knee to, it should be the opposite way, actually, right?
And because you also had sex with her.
And
I
you're
don't
having
care
sex with
about
your
that.
sister,
Cousin or aunt.
Yeah,
Aunt.
Here's the thing.
But then
It's
immediately
like-
Samuel immediately says this is to protect you, and Robert would have killed you had he known. I love that they throw that out immediately. And I was talking to Barrett yesterday after the show ended, where I was not expecting this moment to happen this soon.
Yeah,
in the series.
very quickly.
Now, granted, there's not that many episodes, right? So it has to happen quickly. But it happened, and I was expecting it to be one of those moments of Jon, I have something to tell you, and boom, explosion. Later, Sam, we'll talk about it later. I'm so glad it happened and it's out of the way. And because there's so many more episodes to see how those
How
chips
it's gonna
fall.
play out.
Yeah.
How did he not know? Has he not been on the internet in the last 5 years?
Jesus,
It's crazy, man. Unbelievable.
Look it up, dude.
Yeah, well, the
jeez.
Targaryens have
doesn't want spoilers.
interwed their family for generations, so I think that it's hopefully going to resolve itself relatively quickly. Because frankly, we don't have time. As Bran said at the top of the episode, we don't have time for all this.
No time.
This army is marching quickly.
Real quick with this, did you guys watch the little after the show
where they
thing?
talked about just being Kit
They
Harington.
talked about
So cool.
they're it's so hard editing these now because everyone's performances are so good. And he's Sam's performance was great, but he had his moment in the library. Kit Harington's performance was so awesome during the scene. We just stayed on his face. It's as Sam was telling him all this shit, it's we didn't do a cut back and forth. It was we just wanted to see Jon Snow.
Well, they also explained because the audience knows that news, so this isn't news to us.
Yeah.
It's only news to him. So yeah, that's brilliant, dude.
Something I want to bring up about the is he going to be upset when he finds out that that's his aunt? We have to remember that Sansa was engaged briefly to Aaron, her cousin, her direct cousin. So I don't think that whole thing is a big
that
deal
little
for
creep.
them. Yeah.
That little
I
creep.
hate it.
I mean, the bigger implication though is anytime a big piece of news like this, a big secret's revealed for one of the characters, it doesn't end that well for one of the characters. The last time Ned Stark figured out a huge secret like this, he got his head cut off.
Yeah.
So the question is what is the bigger implication of this, and how is this? Because this is going to be a big deal between him and Daenerys. There's no way that this isn't going to put them literally at odds against each other. Because she's not giving up that throne, and I think is he gonna just say screw it, I don't care anymore, or is he gonna take his rightful place as on the Iron Throne?
In that scene, we see him say I don't want this. Like, I didn't want to be king last time. I don't want to be king now. And even earlier when he's talking to Sansa, he's like, I didn't want that. Like, I never wanted to be the king.
He has a great quote about like everybody is arguing for a seat when there's more important stuff happening right now, and that's why I think he is the most worthy of being the king.
Yes. Final scene of episode 1, season 8, is the Brotherhood and Tormund, and we discover some of the members of the Night's Watch. My confusion is like, where are they? What are they doing?
That was
how
weird.
did we get here? So
We've seen this place before.
yeah, so where they are is they're at the Umber household. So what happened is, if we remember the beginning of the episode, little Ned Umber, who was left because his father was murdered in the Battle of the Bastards. So he's now the head of the household. He asks Sansa and Jon for wagons. He's like, because she's like, why isn't the Umber household here? He's like, because we need more horses and wagons, milady, or whatever. And then they're like, you'll have what you need. And he scurries off. So now we cut to the Umber household. They're sneaking through. Don't know why they're sneaking.
That's my thing. Is I was really confused. Like when
they don't know if the White Walkers.
Because
Because
they just
everything's
crossed it
destroyed.
there,
They can tell everything's like bloodied.
fucking shit's gone down.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just weird that those groups of people were there at the Umber place when we last saw them at the wall.
Right, they were at the wall.
So they're
and
making their way
left-
south.
They're
They
making their way
left
south.
when it got destroyed.
So remember, because he goes, hey, there's a whole army between us now and them.
So where were they going?
But
They're going to
remember,
Winterfell, I think.
Then
Winterfell.
why were they in the house then?
'Cause
Walk right past it.
So here's the thing: they got presumably the
you
men
gotta
the
loot
men
the
at Castle
fucking
Black got a
resources.
raven, letting them know that Eastwatch has fallen, that the White Walkers are through the wall, that because that part of the wall is at the far end, right? Has been crumpled, and that they need to retreat to Winterfell. And so on their path down, you know, they stop because the Umber and the Karstarks are the farthest north of the large bannermen of the Stark household. So they stop there maybe to get supplies or what have you. We didn't get an establishing
Or to see if there's anybody there.
that's still alive, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't get an establishing shot of the outside of
You
the
gotta
Umber.
imagine it was destroyed, similar to the
Right.
inside.
So if the army of the dead has rolled through there, there's probably carnage outside, right? And so they get inside, they're all being hushed tones. And they get into this room, and you know they run into some of these brothers of the Night's Watch, and like, okay, we're
got
all
blue
friends.
eyes.
We're all friends here.
I always have blue eyes.
I lost my shit at
So
that
your
line.
tweet was great.
It was great.
Tormund's great,
It
dude.
was so. It
and
was
this
so
is a
funny.
good reveal that all these guys are still alive. Because last we
Yes.
saw, they could have been blown the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right. So we had no idea. So it's good to know that they're still alive.
And what a dark scene. Gee, it was just like
But
hard
that's
to
right.
see.
Like, did we talk about the fact that John was like send a message to the knights, like to the people of the
Come
of the
back.
wall, come back. There's no reason to fucking stay there anymore. Like
Yeah, we
your
know,
job's
yeah.
done.
Oh,
We
and
fucked up.
I lied. This isn't the final scene.
No,
But
the
it's like
final scene
The
is
final
great.
like crazy scene. So they make it into this other room, and they see this child staked to the wall with body
It's the
parts.
kid, right? It's
Yeah,
the Lord of the
yeah.
House,
It's
right?
Ned Umber, yes. It's staked, and there's body parts that are making this pinwheel design, which harkens back again to season episode one, of like it's a mark of the Night King. They're like, the White Walkers have been here. He's
it's not
sending
even
a
the
message.
It's a different marking though. It's weird because like in season
the
one,
same spiral.
In season one, like they showed the spiral somewhere else in season one, but the first episode it was
It's more of like
it's a
a-
circle with a line in the middle, and I never understood why they switched those.
I'll tell you what, because this one's creepier and scary.
Yeah,
Something interesting I saw on, I was watching some video and they're like, oh, this is where the spiral comes from. If you watch when he's being created, turned into the Night King, there's a stone spiral on around the tree that he's
is the
pinned to.
shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just looking at this. It says, this is over on Elite Daily. It says, this is not the first time we've seen the White Walkers do this. The opening episode back in 2011 it also featured a scene with body parts used to send a message, though in that case, the Night's Watchman, Will, who found it, couldn't make heads or tails of it. You remember those two random dudes out in the snow?
Yeah.
Gosh, that seems so long ago.
The guy that got beheaded by Ned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Later in that same episode.
although you do see both symbols when Jon Snow is showing Daenerys
In the caves.
in the caves, all the markings and drawings. You see a spiral and the circle with the line through the middle.
Yeah.
But I just wish they just kept it consistent. I wish
Yeah,
it was just like
it's
the
weird.
spiral.
Right.
Well, there are some.
So, I mean, what we take away from this scene, though, is that that Beric and Tormund have discovered that means now that the army of the dead is between them and Winterfell, which is not a great place to be. And so they have to figure out if they can use horses to ride past them somehow or ride around them to make it to Winterfell before the army gets there.
Great scene though of this fucking kid.
Yeah.
Just dead.
on.
And then
Oh
just
my God.
screaming.
I
Horrifying.
screamed so loud when that happened because I think I was just like in a relaxed state from laughing at Tormund's joke about I've always had blue eyes. It was so funny. And then of course, this kid comes to life, and of course, Beric Dondarrion's got his flaming sword, and he
So
stabs
cool.
him, and he's good to go. And then the final stinger of the episode, I just have Jaime and Bran. OMG. So we see Jaime Lannister riding incognito into Winterfell. His hair looks like he's dyed it like a dark color, so people don't recognize him as the Kingslayer out on
Makes
the open
sense,
road. And then, of course, creepy
Oh, I thought
Bran.
it just grew out.
Well, it's
I mean, it was
definitely
like
a little bit
dark.
longer, but
blonde
It's
it,
like
and
my
beautiful.
color hair.
yeah, it looked darker.
blonde.
Blonde, yeah.
Like he was trying
No,
to
it wasn't.
hide his golden hair, which is a very signature hallmark for the
Yeah.
Lannisters, right?
good.
And then creepy Bran rolls out, and then they like lock eyes, and there's like kind of that's where the episode ends.
Oh man.
But like
so
the
many great
first
memes.
fucking
And it-
person he sees when he gets off the horse, he looks like, oh no,
that's why bro
this is
was
the
waiting
last
for
person
him.
I wanted to see.
My
This is the
favorite
last person.
meme is that it got posted a million times by a bunch of different people, was Jamie walking up, seeing Bran, and then the outro music to Curb Your Enthusiasm was just like so great.
This is the one reunion that I never even thought about.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that is the last thing that I thought we'd see, and I love that they're paying off with that, and also didn't expect the episode to end there. Like this, how did we get the reveal of Jon knowing that he's the fucking real king,
And that wasn't
then
the-
more shit happened afterwards?
Well, 'cause there's only 6 episodes.
I love that though. I was like, I love that this episode
great.
entirely was like, it's chess. Let's move the pawns out, but let's also move a couple other things. You
And
know
there,
what I
yeah,
mean?
there's been so many moving parts that we forget, and we forget that there are obvious things that can happen, and they do happen. You're like, oh shit! Of course. Why wouldn't I have thought of that? Like,
Also, like Daenerys and Sam, like who thought that would
Yeah.
be a fucking great moment?
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
that just shows
sad,
you how
but great.
intricate this series still is. Because you think, oh, we started this off by saying, oh, cool, there's only 2 areas left: King's Landing and Winterfell. Still a lot of character dynamics left to flesh out. A lot of storylines, a lot of politics. We're in for it.
and the show is incredible for me because I have such a bad memory. And whenever, when characters meet up with each other, I'm like, oh, they're talking
yeah.
cool. And then you start to hear the dialogue, you're like, oh, fuck, yeah.
It's a big talk.
Well, it's hard to remember when the last time these people saw each other was. And
Yeah.
I was racking my brain to figure out, I was like, wait, has Arya not seen Jon since like season 1?
Yeah.
Have
First
they
episode.
really
Yeah.
been that far away? That's
Yeah.
so crazy.
And then
Yeah.
Bran and Jamie haven't seen each other since the first episode, right?
When he threw his ass out
Yeah.
the window.
Yeah, that was the last time that
They probably thought of each other a lot though since then.
Well,
don't think Jamie thought
presumably
about him.
Bran has seen all of this happen. Like he
Right.
knew, what was going to happen. He knew that he would see Jamie. It's really all about the people who are interacting with Bran and what their reactions are, because Bran like sees all now. So it's going to be weird how they're going to unfold that
Yeah.
and how they're going to make it so that it logically and narratively makes sense. I'm just really hoping that they don't jump the shark on this final season. I don't think they will. I was talking last night to some people about this and about how I just don't believe in any of this Bran is the Night King nonsense. And like, there's so many theories and there's so many pieces of evidence that are lining up. And I was like going down a rabbit hole looking at it. I was like, I just don't think the showrunners would do that. I think that it would, like, narratively, there's a lot of reasons why it also doesn't make sense. And I'm hoping that they kind of like keep it grounded in reality, because otherwise, like, it could.
Oh,
it
we're
could
we're
explode.
past that.
I just want
Andrea.
to see. I just want to see Bran wog. Is that what's it called? Wogging.
Warg.
Warging. I
Warging.
want to see him warg into that dragon.
Yeah, I think that there's
That
a
would be
lot of that
amazing.
stuff. Like, I think that there is a 50% chance that we're getting him as the Night King, and because they set it up with the Hodor time manipulation
Yeah.
loop stuff. Like, they've already set that up as a reality in this world, so they totally can do some shit where he is the Night King and he's coming back to get the body or whatever the hell.
I really hope that when Jamie and Bran first talk, and it's like, you threw me out of that window. And he's like, well, I thought you weren't Bran. What do you mean? I thought he died in the cave, bro.
I hope the next episode starts with that scene.
I
don't think
have
it
a
will,
feeling
but
it's
I
gonna.
wa- I want it to.
Yeah.
Where he's like, hey man, how you been? Good. Hey, sorry about fucking up your entire life by crippling you when you were very young.
But like,
That's
he's
cool,
not
man.
Bran anymore, so
Yeah.
it's like it's gonna be a weird
He has no
thing.
personal like
Yeah.
vendettas, I don't think,
No,
anymore.
like, but
yeah.
a lot of the storylines with like Jamie's character specifically has been about like redeeming those moments, because the thing, like, remember what he said when he threw him out the window? Is like the things I do for love, and now that he's realized that his entire relationship with Cersei was completely unhealthy and not good. Like, it'll be interesting to see if he's remorseful about it or how he goes about making like amends with Bran, or even if it's necessary at this point.
I think he absolutely will try to make amends, but I think hopefully Bran will stick to what he said at the beginning. We don't have time for this. Like it's in the past. Like what's done is done. There's no fixing it. Like
because you have to imagine the Kingslayer still has to play a very big part in this somehow.
He's arguably the best general that exists in the show, right? Across all of the families,
literally.
all of the armies. Like he's the guy.
If he doesn't end up killing Cersei, I don't think it's
Queenslayer, baby.
That's my thing. Is like he's already killed a king. Like he's got to be the guy that takes out.
He
Cersei.
doesn't want to be that person anymore.
Well,
Like
he's
all about redemption now.
Suck
And
it up,
I want
Buttercup.
Arya to
You
kill
gotta
her
be it.
though.
I think they kill each other.
yeah, I have a feeling they're gonna kill each other and something's gonna get
And then
really
the Lannister
blown up.
family line just dies.
I love that
Well,
we
no,
don't
because
know.
Tywin's still
Tyrion's
Tyrion.
I would
I
love the
think it's
idea.
true.
I would love like Cersei like finally dies, and it's like and then like they run up.
baby
They're like, we
bursts
got
out.
elephants. Like fuck.
Hey, shit.
Hey, the elephants just arrived. It's just everyone's done.
That's so funny.
I think so. We got a little glimpse of next week's episode.
Yeah.
and boy, am I excited because it looks like they're holding like a little bit of a trial for.
Well, the scene where she's
Jaime.
like, my brother and I grew up talking about what we would do if we ever encountered the guy that killed our dad. And
Well,
it's just Jamie standing in front of
but
him like,
I hope that's
That
when we
was
get
a
the
psychopath.
Brienne like coming out and being like, that's not how that went down. Like, I'm the only one that knows this story because he told me when he was like not feeling well.
Yeah.
And like reveals it to everyone, and suddenly like everyone starts thinking about him differently.
yeah, because that is the one thing he's done in his life that was righteous, right?
Yeah.
He was like, this guy is torturing people and he's insane. So what are you going to do? I have to take one for the team.
Well,
and
he was
kill
about
him.
to blow up King's Landing.
Well,
Yeah.
we saw on the next episode they allude to that scene happening, right?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to watch that, and then also they've set up the fact that the war is pretty much there.
Yeah.
like they're going to be. They have that line in the next on where he's like, they're coming, and it's going to happen before sunrise.
Oh, that's where we see Tormund in that, right? The cutscene where he's telling, is it not Tormund?
Which one's
Man,
Tormund?
Tormund's gonna die. and I'm gonna hate
Redheaded
myself.
guy.
Because they make presumably they make it to Winterfell.
before the
Yeah.
White Walkers, but it sounds like the White Walkers are gonna be here till like tomorrow.
close.
Shit's going down. Shit's
Yeah, like
going
the
down.
thing, even if Brienne steps up and like talks about Jaime, being good, that's still Daenerys is still gonna be mad. Like that doesn't like tell the Stark people are gonna be like, you know what? I guess I do forgive you.
No, but like I feel like Daenerys understands her dad was a psychopath. Like she says it earlier when she's like, "I'm not my dad. I know that he was fucked."
But I mean, even 3 episodes ago,
also-
she was like, "I'll fucking burn it down."
Yep.
But also, what's
Yeah,
going to
that's
happen
true.
when Sansa, the lady of the house, goes, "Oh, you threw my fucking brother out of a window? Like, we remember this shit.
Well,
Am I going
and
to just let that
also-
go?"
He's fine.
Yeah.
No, I mean Sansa has every reason to hate all of the Lannisters.
Oh, yeah,
you
she's
know,
not in a good place.
There was even like a
She
that
watched like
tense
Jamie
moment
stood by
between her
as
and
she was being
Tyrion,
basically
right?
tortured by Joffrey.
Also,
yeah.
he captured their dad, Ned. Right?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Ah, it's gonna be this next episode. I'm so excited.
Forgiving and forgetting is going to be
Yeah.
a little harder on this one.
Yeah, a
it's
lot of
cool.
Sansa having to bite her tongue, and she probably won't.
I'm very interested in Daenerys and Jon and like how they play this out. Like I feel like Daenerys turns and like she's bad and gets killed at some point.
She
I feel
breaks
like
bad,
I
you
don't
think?
think so.
I feel like at some point, I'm with you. She's got to get taken out of the game.
Yeah, she's
Because
not
she's
the
now a
right-
wild card of like, if you look at everyone that's gelled, if you take her out and you give Jon the army, then you have a solidified North.
But the
against
Unsullied
South.
aren't going to follow Jon. The Dothraki aren't going to follow Jon.
Totally right.
You know, like that's the thing. Is like even if he can convince that one
Unless she
dragon that he's
unless she
friendly,
mysteriously dies in battle.
like we're talking about tens of thousands of soldiers that only follow
They need
Daenerys.
all of that. Yeah.
I think he's gonna take her aside and be like, "Hey, look, I just found this information out. It looks legit.
Don't worry,
Tells her about
I
everything.
killed Sammo. He's the only one
Yo,
who knows.
look, I'm still down to fuck. It's
Yeah.
all good.
I killed
But
Bran too.
I think he's just gonna be like, I don't want this. I don't want this. I do want to be with you. It'd be really cool if we stay together. And she's gonna be like, all right, cool.
Have
and
him
that's gonna
killed.
be it.
Then the Unsullied try to kill him. He's like, I've already been dead once.
Yeah, I feel like that's too clean for Game of Thrones, though.
I know,
No,
but
like,
like,
I think
feel
it's-
I get we're at that point, though.
I feel like we're at that point. Like we're getting a funner happier Game of Thrones than like the books are gonna be. I think there's gonna be a big difference. Like when the books come out, I think the story is gonna be very
they ever
different.
come out.
Yeah.
I mean, George R. R.
true.
Martin has already said as much that his storyline in the books is much longer. I think there was a quote from him yesterday saying if HBO had used the material he's actually putting into the books, the series would go another 5 years or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he ever actually publishes the next book,
Don't call. He's trying his best. There's so much pressure.
he's not trying his best.
He is.
Step it up.
He
He
is
wrote
writing
like
a lot
4
of side
different
stories
books
though.
that's not related.
I saw a great tweet from the harddrive.net or whatever, that sort of like onion-ish Twitter account that was like, George R. R. Martin has been hired to write Half-Life 3.
That's fucking hilarious.
All right. You can go to patreon.com/kindafunny to write in your thoughts on the episode. Dylan writes in and says, John be like, I'm still going to fuck my aunt, though.
Yeah.
It's true. Very true.
I mean, they've already fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
it's like,
it's like
what's-
Luke, you already kissed her.
God,
You know what I mean?
You can't undo
You
it.
can't undo it.
Yeah.
You've already tasted the fucking forbidden fruit.
Stop. Not cool. Way too far. Way too far.
Daniel Hicks says, really enjoyed it. I
No, you're
expected.
not. Incest. You're with incest right now.
It's already
Brother sister incest.
Look at-
it's
and
already been
maybe they make
established
him
as part of this world of Game of Thrones. So
Exactly.
just like, let it
It's
go.
in
And maybe
2019.
maybe they
You
make
guys are
another little
sick.
mad king because he comes out a little crazy. Whatever.
He's mad.
He wouldn't be mad.
Everyone's
They're
mad.
cousins.
The inbreeding causes a little craziness. Let's put it that
Continue,
way.
Nick.
I expected it was
Continue.
going to be a bit
No, we
more of
don't
an exposition episode. I was also fairly certain John would find out the big news this episode. The best parts were definitely either Sam finding out the news about his family, which was heartbreaking, or the very end with Jamie and Bran. Fucking dope ending. It's true. It really was.
Great
Good
ending.
fucking ending.
Chauncey says, I think overall it was a great episode. Lots of long-awaited reunions stuffed into the episode, but I get they have a lot to cover in 6 episodes. The first scene on the Greyjoy's boat seemed a little pointless. It seemed like it was only used to show where Yara was being kept. Solid 8.7.
I like that scene. I love that
Oh,
actor.
I
I forget his
appreciate-
name, but that Dutch actor that was in Ghost in the Shell. I think he's fucking awesome.
Euron, the guy who plays Euron.
Awesome.
Oh,
I
Euron.
love that character. I love everything about him. He just wants to watch the world
Dude,
burn
I hate
down.
that
so we can
character so
bang.
much because I
He's
feel
such a
like
piece of shit.
he just. I don't think that like he adds anything at all. Except
I
for,
think,
like,
he's the,
all right,
I think
cool.
he's the most
Here's
honest
the-
character in all of Game of Thrones, though, because he's like, I just want to bang and kill everyone.
He wants
There's
to-
that
he
great-
wants to become a god.
There's the great moment in season 7 when they are showing off what a white looks like to Cersei to prove to her what's coming or whatever. And it's like, all right, everybody hates each other. We're all sitting down. Tyrion stands up and he's like, all right, we all don't like each other, blah, blah, blah. And then Euron's like, hey, you're fucking short. Or he says like some short shit. And he's like, right. And everybody's like, shut the fuck up, dude.
not
Like
cool.
nobody there likes him. It's so great.
He also has a great moment where he just walks away and he's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That was a trick, though, yes.
Richard the Bat says Bran's going to throw Jamie out a window.
That'll be interesting to see.
Mechanically.
Yeah, how you gonna do
It'd
that,
be
buddy?
funny if they do that in like a way that like a good way where they're like, oh, he needs to get out right now and he's like hesitating for something.
Fighting Wombat does something I really appreciate, and he wrote his review in haiku form.
Oh, great.
Dragons in the North. Everybody hates Jon Snow. Please don't make Sam cry. Yeah, really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 1 of Kinda Funny's Game of Thrones, the final season in review. We all enjoyed it very much, it sounds like, and can't wait for the second episode. Andy, do you have some fun little outro here?
the night is dark and full of terrors.